1岁吧。我看完，兄弟们，我看完这场我也睡了啊。就这我们今天播的最后一个波衫啊，现在 DS1领先了。我真的要看一下说了，这个选手曾经是我看好的选手。我称他为世界第5Z。你妈现在沦落到这种地步，感谢晋江人的一个飞机，感谢兄弟。
Lost Raiders Protoss before this, plus Solar very vocal.
提前说，我说不动了，
PVC matchup.
你们看吧。
我们今天播的最后一个波衫，这个是最后一个波衫，兄弟。
我视频我明天再看。
Or if DNS can take advantage of the situation here again.
他现在肯定很不爽，你妈个鸡被雷诺的神族打成这样。
But this is going to be interesting because we talked about this before. It didn't really come into play, but we do have these pocket bases available for our players if they want.
I think the last time we casted this map was in Kelza versus Patty Mac, I want to say.
感谢圣迪克的飞机啊！哎，不要礼物不要送了，我们看看比赛，这最后一个波衫了，那么晚了，大家对吧？心平气和的把比赛看了。
We never really got to see that, but
这场也是出现战啊！我把这个山再调小。
Unfortunately, we didn't really get to see too much of this map play out. No player was able to actually expand here. Earlier today, so a little bit of a feels bad man, but we'll see how things go here. As once again, DNS standard opener.
我是觉得这个 DNS 真的不强，因为在国家杯的比赛中，大家看过他什么实力的。这说了，输给雷诺之后，难道会输给他0-2？
He messed up a little bit when it comes to protecting his mineral lines, but like when it came to his overall army control and macro, like it was solid.
Yeah, it really much was.
一个农民还行吧，
Yeah, I
还
have to
行
wonder
还
if
行还
it
行，基本的操作都还在啊，是吧？
different if Sola fought with his entire force
侦察到
at
先
that
知，
time, because it did feel like he was splitting up his army a lot. Half of it to go for run bys and half of it to defend as well. But looking back to that army graph,
还是说 Sola 是现在打不来，就是小黑人那一套，我估计他打不来小黑人那一套。
Yeah, that would be something to keep in mind. Again, we talked about this a little bit today. If you're the Protoss player, and especially if you're playing a gateway heavy style,
不，我以前对
just
Sola 的
not
印象
losing
是
the initial
这个选手拥有
waves of
的
warpins that you have early
超
on
好
has
的
a
一个基
massive
本功。
knock-on effect throughout the rest of the game.
那虽然说打法有点古板，但是因为自己基本功好，所以说他能够爆出很多兵，然后利用这个包抄去跟别人，就跟任何人都可以这么打。然后他的这个运营流程肯定都是最先进的，对，神族打他一波永远都打不出来的。 当时Sola是给我这种感觉。
But as we saw, when you're transitioning into infestors, you do leave yourself quite vulnerable when that happens. So we didn't really get to see that come to fruition.
我挺看好他，
I kind
其
of want to
实。
see it. I kind of want to see what Solar has to offer when he does, if he can incorporate infestors.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a glimpse of that in the series against Mana, but of course Mana took inspiration from the Swarm Toss style, but didn't really,
要打
copy it
双线
one
没有
on
机
one.
会
It was
这
a
是肯定没
very
机会
unique thing that
先
he
知
had.
现在不能死啊，他3先知的话，待会儿还是很有用的。
We'll see if it will have the same effect.
DNS 好像也是那一
Yeah, so
套
far nothing
，VC
crazy.
DF
Solar
之后升
turning up,
Blink。
working on his Roach. Warren confirmed that there was
现在这个
an
战
Oracle
术
Ogre,
就
triple
这套
Ogre,
体系
triple
不能说
Ogre,
战
triple
术了，
Ogre
已经是个
at
体
that.
系了，已经
Trying to be a little bit aggressive with the
现在
things,
所有
trying to
的
force
神族
DNS
都在
to
用，
back home, and
所以说这
interesting
对于
because DNS
重组选手
obviously
来
is
说的
third
话
as
是一个
the
考
base.
验，就必须要有一个人站出来
Yeah,
能够把这套体系给
definitely not,
破了。
Definitely not as much income as a Protoss player would typically like to have at this stage of the game, but it is a lot safer. He is able to, ensure he has at least 2.5 bases worth of mining.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like
4矿都
because
开
the
起来
pocket
了，
base is so safe,
妈现在才
it gets
5
us
分
through
半
relatively
哎，我
quickly,
靠，
and
他
I
你妈
think
4矿都开起来了，
on par with the fourth of Solar, which is pretty interesting.
这个
to see.
4矿
We'll see if he can get his fourth up
是
and
不是
running.
有点
I mean,
太
with this
过了？
weapon, yeah, he should be fine here against the Link counterattack. He should be able to get it up in the end. But I kind of like this for DNS, especially because you don't actually take too many gases with this style of Protoss play in PvZ. gases, you take the first 4, and then you can
这
delay
比赛
your
奖
fifth and
金
sixth gas for quite a while.
冠军是好像15000 刀
In，this case, he's gonna have 5 gas.
这个比赛奖金就
And
还挺
eventually
高的。
7.
当然，现在的所有星际的比赛奖金是军魔 Hacker 的那个
Meanwhile, across the map,
卡多维兹，对 ESL 卡多维兹战是最高的。
Here, does end up losing a couple of them though.
死一个先摘
Definitely
可以。
very ballsy with his Oracle control, and he does get a couple of drone kills with that.
哎 ，DNS 把这个战术
But
稍
we'll
微
see if it
变
was,
了一下，
worth
他
it
把
in
这
the
个
end.
战术变成了一个
Yeah,
就有
we'll
点
see
像
if
猛
DNS
男流
is
的这种
getting
打法，
saturated here. There we go.
攻防非
Yeah,
常的
of
快。
these Stalkers, as we would expect. The big weakness is, of course, that he did lose a lot of his oracles, and he only has 1 remaining right now.
哎，他这样
and
变一下
it's
其实还蛮好
difficult
的，我
not
真
to
觉得蛮好的。
replace them. I do know that they are relatively gas intensive, and it's hard to do so and hard to find room, especially when you're again not taking additional gases because you don't need to. So yeah, now he's going to be that much
真的
weaker.
攻防特别
to
快，
links,
这个
but
这个
Solar
战术。
didn't go for +1 melee.
Yeah, he went for +1 range instead. He is focusing a lot more on Roaches and Ravagers.
虽然知道你
against
一波马上要
Stalkers
过来了。
of DNS and eventually charge
先变了火蟑螂啊，这个不着急。
Feels like DNS should
但是
be favored,
经
but
济
at
来
the
说的
same
话，
time,
其实
Solar
Solar 的经济并
has
不算
stopped
特别好。
early.
现在他在
Exactly, man.
强行暴兵
Solar，has
就
joined
等着
up
你
to
出门一波
69，
要把这波给
nice.
吃掉。
Uh,
然后这盘
and that is
Solar
all
因为他的
he's
均
working
态比较
with.
好，
He's
所以女
making
王可以往
nothing
前
but
走，
lean
包了，
approach.
哎，
He
可以
catches，
但是
the
回城
Stalkers
回得
in
很
the
漂亮
middle of that. Even
第一时间
forces a
回
bit
城
of
啊
a recoil, does connect with those biles, and Solar
直
maybe
接一
he's
波
going
了
for the kill.
妈个，这我跟你搞个毛，老子
He
说了
should
就是
be
打一
able to
波的，
get it. The Biles down to force
他妈
field,
就靠自己
not too
刚
much
猛的一
energy
波
left，
先把你
on
他妈
these sentries, nowhere near
很
enough
难点
energy.
了，
Battery overcharge was popped, shield battery was
这才
popped
是真正的
by the
我
Roaches and
奇迹。
Ravagers. GG.
对，
Solar
这才
shows
对
that
嘛！我靠，这
he
就是 Solar 呀！
is- That game number 1 was a
他
little
妈
bit
怎
of
不
an
可能输给
aberration.
这种神族
He
的呀？
is
这种
taking us
神族
all the way.
怎么可能输给这种神族？
Exactly, exactly. I'm pretty interested in
康民数好
happened
吗？
as well because I'm fairly certain that a lot of this was because of the map.
这曾经
that map
被
of
称
course
为
being
你妈许
relatively
褚
small
你
and
们想想
short.
看，
It doesn't take much time at all to move out across said map. So yeah, that worked out really well. I wonder what map 3 is going to be though. That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, we've seen a very large map. We've seen a relatively short match, but kind of safe as well with the pocket expansions. And now we're going to see the standard map.
文丑是 Impact，Solar 是许褚。
Love the aesthetics.
你想，当时评价很高的呀
Yeah, it
，Solar。
looks like map 3 is going to be Tropical Sacrifice. So going for like big timing attack is going to be a little bit more difficult to pull off here. So we let everyone know that we are ready.
对，点为是书本。
哎，
哎，怎么你还？
Yeah,
啊，
we'll
这
哎
个时候
兄弟啊
你不睡正常
something。like this again.
你怎么还在啊？
最后一盘了
Depending on how long
看完我
the
就
game
睡了
does go.，
皮乔。
But ooh, we're actually being
怎么还在播比赛啊
对？啊
Yeah.
Oh,
Again, a
这
lot
这
of,
我们这3
a
天都要
lot of
播比
matches
赛
are，
这
starting
3
to
天没
wrap
法
up
练
here,
习了，
and
皮乔。
we are
周
getting
一
towards the end of the day.
battle 的时候，
嗯
So it makes
再
sense
见了
that we're
嗯
kind of，scrambling and cast whatever we
我
can
告诉你
at
的
this
秘
point.
密啊，皮乔。
那只能如此了。
Yeah, we
下
are
周
running
下周
matches in
要不然我
general.
选你。
I wonder if we're going to be able to cover another
或者
series
我这么说，
不是你先告诉我秘密啊！
下周你想不想跟七小兔
Yeah,
在
I
一
think that
起？
depends on whether or not we're covering the knockout bracket or not.
Yeah, that's the thing. I do know that they want to get a couple of rounds
啊
done of the
应
knockout.
该是不太想。
Cast like I don't know, Vindictor or something like that. If we do cast it.
Ooh,
好吧，那
yeah,
我
that'd
懂
be
了，
exciting.
你放心吧。
有的时候啊，这个要看缘分，你知道吧？
Including this decider match here
我懂了，
on
皮乔。
Tropical Sacrifice. We're in the top right-hand corner map, starting all the way in the top right-hand corner. We have a blue Protoss
你懂什么了？
from the land
我什么都没说呀，我只是说对吧？这个东西看缘分呀。
Gaming. He is.
那我
S.
问你，是摸
不，你其实按照先后顺序来想，我注定和他在不了一起
为，什么？
Spawning in the
你有没有
bottom
发现？
left-hand corner of Tropical
因为
Sacrifice.
一选是他
ESL, we have the
，2、
same
3手就是我和另一个辅助，
不是
所以
不是摸过
我们怎么都分不到一起的。
is Solar.
没有我比他们弱呀，我是 ICU 第2弱呀。
Two very different approaches
不可能
to ZVP from Solar. Similar
这样。
things coming out from DNS. Is this the time
我这场比赛结束了，我就睡觉去了。妈的，好困啊！我靠，我只想看看索拉。
索拉啥情况？
索拉被雷诺的神族给击败。
你们这是预选赛吗？
小组赛。
就预选赛已经打完了是吧？哦。
今年那个亚特兰大不是有一站吗？李佩南应该会去，到时候你又可以看看李佩南了。
到时候看呗，他不一定来嘛，到时候看。
不容易，
不知道什么情况呢，到时候。
关键你又可以请选手们吃大餐了。
哎，你想那个时候他们来那个叫什么？洛杉矶打比赛的时候，还一起吃饭的。
是啊，
没想到现在这些人都练出来了。就他们几个啊，那个什么兰博，什么河马，什么嘎姐，什么 Sarah， 对吧？就他们一起吃饭的嘛。
哎呀，这个叫妈的，你们这些人真的是，这不是凯，这个叫有朋自远方来，对不对？那开心。必须要明天这2天好好练练啊！到时候我会选你的。我不信，我他妈的
今天已经
我
输麻了。今天跟浩南2个人就没赢过，你知道吧？啊，6连败，输麻了已经。
他妈的6连败！
我跟浩南2个人，我们从傍晚开始打了他妈2个人打了4个小时，没赢过一把。
秀你妈的！
你知道我们2个双排去排天气，排到后面浩南已经开始喷路人了，知道吗？心态炸裂。
好难，你妈的！好难。哎，周一我要想办法让他赢。
very cheesy player. Sure, he can hit some timing attacks. Sure, that's great. But again, like going for things like Midases, going for like
我解说比赛的时候，明天你空了来啊，我等你啊，有大项目啊，每天都有啊。
你们在哪看比赛啊？在哪看比赛？我也看看。
就那个斗鱼啊。
哦。
好了，又是这一套啊。3先支开，然后 BF 和 VC 一起下，就小黑肉那一套。现在小黑肉的这个整个体系，就他发明出来之后，所有神都在学完之后，当然每个人学出来之后的东西都有点不一样。像雷诺，你妈学的东西就跟别的神族不一样，就很先进，领悟了这套战术的精髓。那个盾就很非常的精髓。这个 DNS 的这个先知的操作跟雷诺完全没法比，好吗？这波索拉赚了。对，雷诺神族，雷诺用神族在比赛，在出线战2-0战胜了索拉，把索拉打到败者，这就是索拉败者组的决赛啊。
One more queen, and that would have been the end of that oracle.
这个出门是没什么太多意义，不过他有2个先知保底，所以说他敢出门。反正你如果过来，我就往后退嘛，退完之后，对吧？我直接用先知跟你的狗打就行了，因为女王也抓不住。这个理解倒不错啊，说实话，就稍微过来清一下你的军台。别去送了，先知，别去送了。那再送下去，先知2个先知其实是有点少了，要3先知以上才行。
Yeah, but he has to be careful because things like this can happen. We see a full surround here with the Lings. They just shut down all of these stalkers.
哎，没打，可以打下去。说了刚才。
Help them out again. This is the value of the oracles. Imagine if there was a third.
踩了陷阱。刚才其实可以包掉这5个追猎，虽然狗估包掉之后狗估计也没剩几条，但是可以换，这个完全可以换。因为你刷狗是很快的，别人刷追猎其实不快。再包这2个先知看就很精髓，如果3个先知的话还要精髓。说了被 DNS 这个压制的有点烦，他现在经济不是特别好啊。
DNS trying to get his 4th up and running. Very interesting location for the 4th as Solar tries to go for a run by.
Not finding too much of the run by yet, but there's a shield battery. Not quite able to slip on
先知能量已经差不多搓完了。
Was a backup wall, and of course the Oracle.
现在就依靠攻防狗，然后去各种跑，
司机
就打掉。
这
个打法其实跟上一盘他上一场打雷诺那场。是一模一样的，就是这个就升狗一攻，然后狗毒爆，然后配合的蟑螂狗毒爆。
He has eyes on everything. He has Lings everywhere. He's going to try and dive back in, but this time with 4 stalkers. Okay, the natural base is safe and sound.
我觉得 DNS 这场感觉打到现在这个阶段，其实已经很难打了。
Now DNS forced to back up, forced to stay at home to get this 4th up.
Yeah, he's going to be stuck at home for quite some time at this point.
Exactly, and with all this time, Solar, he's droning on up. He's taking up as well. Infestation Pit is on the way. Because we have +2 melee, with the Infestation Pit, we can go into Hive, we can go into Ultras if he wanted to.
不过刚才我在想，如果说就说了刚才打雷诺的那盘，如果是说了3本了之后就不出牛，是出第4的话，会不会就结果会不会好一点？当然说了没有那么做嘛，如果是出第4，可能正面的压力就没有那么大了。这个位置怎么能冲啊？你妈你是许褚是许褚，但是势力也没有那么低啊，双线也没打到什么东西。
A little bit of a Ling run by, gets a couple of probes, but DNS was able to pull out in time. Doesn't lose. It could have been a lot worse for him.
It really could have. I'm a little bit shocked by the lack of SimCity here by DNS compared to some of the other Protoss players who do rely a lot more on walling off. This 3rd base feels a little bit too open.
这追猎数量挺多了，已经挺多了，这追猎数量。但 DNS 没有这个就没有这个功力啊。你看 DNS 的打法就跟雷诺完全不一样 ，DNS 就是追猎，然后带技术差，然后打多线。雷诺就不一样，雷诺是出白球，因为白球不管是打这个追猎，不管是打这狗或者是打毒爆都很猛，然后又硬。对，你几个插顶在前面，然后后面白球一摸都是 AOE。
He wants to hit this army, but he knows that he can't, not with all the defenses that DNS has. Best case scenario for Solar, he's able to find us around on top of the
正面打，侧面毒爆，看有没有机会滚到。
Is something to keep in mind here for DNS. We talk a lot about how PvP has become more swarm toss heavy. Great connection on top of that.
刚好滚了一块农民。
16 more probes have been taken out. DNS definitely feeling a bit of
他待会儿都是插这个单位，就这个兵种，你打多线是很厉害，但打正面其实不厉害。说了有毒爆的，有毒爆的话一滚就没了。
Archons maybe or something. DNS is just going straight Stalker Charge Lot Oracle, now getting Templar Archives.
现在就靠这些先知，那这些先知真的烦。然后只要限制住你这个，限制住你的这军坦突过来，对吧？你的这女王就走不过来。这就是这个版本为什么可以用这个战术的原因了。如果是上个版本，你就算没有军坦，女王走的慢一点，但女王在军坦外面也是可以加血，她还是可以过来，就女王直接走女王一波的。这盘还是出牛啊！ 就这个版本是女王不能加血之后，极大的削弱了女王的这个生存的能力。
Exactly, even forces a recall. We see a full surround. The shield battery goes down. A couple of probes as well. With the recall, though, again, this third base is going to be able to stand strong. But does that matter? Because Solar, he just wants to buy time for those ultras to go for the kill.
其实出牛呢，这个东西怎么说呢？追猎其实打牛很快，追猎本来就是打重甲很猛，然后牛就是重甲，然后打牛非常的快。
Even though he's finishing up the Ultra Cavern, it's still going to take time for him to produce the Ultralisks, to clear up supply, to be able to get.
但我现在看Solar这个暗毒爆的数量，我感觉他已经停不下来了。
It's not, it's not the nail in the coffin yet for TNS.
Yeah, like right now his army is not looking too bad, especially with
停不下来了，这肯定停不下来了。妈了个鸡，我是许褚啊！停下来了。哎，这怎么在撞白球？我靠！
Yeah, not very efficient, but I suppose it doesn't really have to be.
他在刚才有个大概20个毒爆在撞白球。
Well, a mineral bank, not so much of a gas bank.
Yeah, that's something that we have to bear in mind. We do see Solar trying to expand again,
撞
but
差就对了
to
呀。
help deal with these zealots. The expansion is going to get up and running. Meanwhile, across the map, Stasis Trap does come off.
Body blocking,
DNS 也是在升盾，但这个盾升的明显就慢了。
Nice catch there, nice catch. Meanwhile, a bit of a ling run by the wall is not a wall, and Solar he does he does notice.
他有点不敢相信，你妈这难道是个陷阱吗？ 居然里面，妈的，我家大门常打开。
DNS has to make a decision on how to defend. Does he pull back any of his units? He does not. He just warps in defensively.
Yeah, he warps in and he wants to take the fight right now. Banelings are going to be morphed in again. The ultras are coming out. The first ultra is here, but is it going to be enough?
牛没有想象中那么好用的，待会儿你看着，这个牛你妈被追猎，待会打成屎。追猎打牛真的猛，打蟑螂也猛。你看牛就甩2下就没了，一下再甩一下没了，牛有什么用？ 真不该出牛，真不该出牛。他妈说了不好打了这局面。
Kind of worth it here for Solar, but the ultras have now been scouted. More Archons are on the way, and again the Archons they just shred the Ling Bane.
他真的不会连这个 DNS 都打不过吧？
Ultras are definitely very powerful, but on their own they are
very sniped
as well. They're massive targets.
牛就算升了，这个牛的那个速度也没用的，也还是因为牛的这个体积太大了，它会有碰撞体积的。 然后你就很难顶到前面去，你跟狗和赌豹在一起的时候，你会发现牛根本就打不到东西，然后在前面打的都是狗。
Little bit of zealot run by is going to be a little bit annoying. DNS is just taking a moment here to recover. He is still pretty far down.
这 DNS 可以慢慢的转型不朽了，你出牛的话就可以转不朽了。
But again, as the ultra count gets higher, we don't really have a solid response.
这个局面，这个味道似曾相识啊。
First wave of immortals are finally now on the way.
And it's definitely a start. But even when they, pop out, it feels like we're in a classic PvZ where Solar or DNS, sorry, has a better army, but Solar has a much bigger army.
其实神族也没那么好打。
The ultras are getting sniped here, but the 5th base goes down once again. Banelings are rolling on in. This time DNS will respond, and he's not going to lose too much at all. The Lings are going to be able to get a lot done, but DNS doesn't care. He's pushing out across the map.
Yeah, there's nothing really here to stop these Archons and these Stalkers. Kind of the perfect counter to the army supply, to the army composition of Solar. Now we have the Ultra thrown into the mix.
有一点用，包的可以，包的可以。这一波包的可以，但白球你们卡住位置。先知过来救一下，但救不住，这个狗太多了，白球有点少。回城好了，赢了，这波打完赢了。这个狗太重要了，我就跟你们说，其实就打到后面牛其实没有大家想象中那么有用。 我觉得这套战术就你说了这个战术啊，稍微改进一下，出第4次，可能效果会不一样，对吧？ 你先蟑螂还是蟑螂狗不爆，对吧？然后打，然后慢慢的转地刺，然后出几条刺蛇在中间。如果他的这个追猎太深入的话，你有几条刺蛇，你也不是很怕这个先知，你只要包住他追猎的话，你就能够打得过他，对吧？然后再转地刺。对，你有几条刺蛇的话，至少就不用多，大概你就弄个5、6条刺蛇就够了。就专打先知的，因为你这个5、6条刺蛇待会儿还是要转地刺的。
I don't think so either. Again, Solar relying so much here, but another Bailey run by at the third base. Every single worker going down. DNS down to 27 probes. Just ignore the main army. Just dance with it. Just distract his opponent.
这波白球强弩之末了。不是，这是我今天最后一场比赛了。这场打看完我就睡觉去了。今天的这个比赛也都已经结束了，差不多。明天晚上的7点啊，明天晚上7点我们会继续给大家带来这个淘汰赛的比赛。GG 啊，恭喜索拉！我就跟你们说的，你妈索拉，我很看好的选手，不可能一蹶不振的。